Today's topic of discussion is cut off intimacy. So I received a DM from a brother. I've had a one-on-one call with him. He asked me, can you please make a video on cut off of intimacy? So we're going to be discussing some key points in terms of why a woman will cut off intimacy in their relationship. So first point is connection. So let's say a man and a woman, they're both in a relationship and things are going well. And then he's getting stressed out at work. He's getting overwhelmed. And when he comes home, he's not spending quality time with his partner. He's too busy working on other things. When a woman is, let's say, working as well, but then she comes home and they're both having a conversation and he's disconnected, he doesn't want to talk to her and he's not paying any attention to her, she's going to start to feel like she's becoming emotionally distant. Now, newsflash for a lot of guys, they don't seem to understand that women are emotional beings. So you have to pay attention to how they interact and how they can have mood swings. So the best way to pretty much deal with these situations is to simply just listen. So you listen to a woman. A lot of times these beta males, they start going back and forth with a woman, trying to give all this advice, trying to tell her, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, or how can I help you? A lot of times a woman doesn't need any of that. She just wants somebody to listen to her. You understand? So what you can do is you just sit there, make direct eye contact with her and just nod your head to whatever she's saying. You just make sure to acknowledge what she's saying. And then after that, just give her a hug or whatever and she'll start to feel better. You understand? But a lot of guys, what they'll do is they'll just have a verbal argument. So she's overwhelmed, she starts saying X, Y, Z, and then he's going and saying X, Y, Z to her. They're both just going back and forth with each other. That leads to a breakdown in intimacy. Because how it starts off is guys are thinking, a woman is just all about physical appearance and stuff like that. It's like with women, how they get in terms of like peak, so how in terms of for them to feel like they want to be intimate with a guy, it starts with the mental. So she needs to feel like she's mentally and emotionally connected with the guy. So you got all these beta males, they're so fixated on, I need to focus on getting a bigger size down there. So they're trying to grow their flipping private parts. So obviously YouTube censors certain words. So they're trying to grow their flipping thing down there and they're just fixated on that. They're trying to grow it to like 8 inch, 10 inch without actually realizing that none of that means anything. A woman needs to be emotionally connected with you in order for her to be satisfied in that department. Because that's what's happening with a bunch of guys. These guys, they are too fixated on external rather than internal. So this relates back to internal. So being emotionally connected with somebody, being emotionally intelligent, to recognize when a woman certain times needs alone time and certain times she needs that emotional connection with you. Does that make sense, guys? So next point is respect. Now, I know this guy at work, right? So he was telling me a story about a guy he knows, right? And this guy must have said to his wife that, can you please piss in my mouth? He said some craziness like that to a woman. Now, his partner, from my understanding, she would have gotten freaked out by that. She would have been like, this dirty sicko, this dirty rapist. You know, he's just saying this BS to me, and then her respect's just gone right down out the window. She has no respect for him whatsoever. You know, this is the type of stuff that these dirty animals are saying to their partners. I mean, what sort of sicko is comfortable saying that to his partner? You know, that leads to a loss of respect of that guy. She don't even want to look at him anymore. And then guess what happened to him? That guy ended up suffering with cut off of intimacy. His partner doesn't want nothing to do with him. You know, so when you're saying stuff like that, when you're taking it to the extreme side, when these guys here, they're just complete perverted, dirty, sick animals, they ain't got no shame. To be saying that to a woman as well, it's just pure cringy, you know, like just disgusted. Straight submissive position. To be in that position for, oh mate, I don't even want to get into it, but it's just, it paints that picture in your head. And that woman, obviously, when she clocked on, she just completely just moved away from me. And things like that, there's no going back from them. And then you hear other stories about certain guys, you know, they're into, you know, I'm not even going to get into all the details, but they're into like group activities. So like 3 of them or 4 of them. You get what I mean? I'm not going to go into all of that stuff, you know. But when you're mentioning stuff like this to a woman, yeah, if a woman's somewhat got respect for herself, she's not going to be interested in any of that stuff. She's going to get turned off. She's going to be like icked out. She's going to get disgusted by stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? That's why certain times these guys here, they end up suffering afterwards because they got this sick, perverted thoughts. Now this guy here, he was telling me he's been addicted to X-rated content since he was 7 years old. So since he was 7 years old, he's been addicted to all this filthy content. And then he ended up getting into a marriage, arranged marriage, and he's ended up saying that to his missus, and then she just completely just doesn't want to even know him. So it's really important. There's that side of it, and then there's the other side of it when it comes to becoming too needy and desperate. Now, I've coached certain guys, right? Certain guys, they're trying to negotiate with a woman with intimacy. They're like, please, like, I really want it. You're just lowering your respect for yourselves. Yeah? If a woman doesn't want to be intimate and she's not trying to entertain that, have the self-respect within yourselves to move away from that person. You know, so that's what it is. It's all a power play certain times. Certain times, these women here, they end up just taking the power, stripping the power off that guy. And that guy's just in a beta cuck mode. Ain't got no respect for himself, ain't got no shame, ain't got no standards. Standards have gone out the window. And then certain times these beta males, they start blackmailing a woman to say that, oh yeah, the hadith mentions about when, for example, a man or a woman, so whichever, when they cut off intimacy of their partner, then the angels curse that person. I wouldn't advise saying that kind of stuff in that moment, because that's going to irritate that woman even more then. You know, if somebody's not reciprocating the same energy, your only option is to pull back, remove yourself, give that person time, space. Don't be them type of guys who are just all on a woman. You're just all forceful. You're just trying to force a vibe. This is what happens with these guys. They end up forcing these things, and then later on, things end up just fizzling out. Woman doesn't want to be anywhere near that guy. So next point is menstrual. So you as a man, before marriage or when you're in marriage, you need to have an understanding of a woman's body in terms of the menstrual cycles. So you can just research it briefly, type it in on the internet, but you need to understand when there's certain periods of the month where she's not going to be able to be intimate with you. And then there's going to be there's going to be certain periods of the month when she's going to be really interested in intimacy. So there's certain apps out there, let's say you're in a relationship, there's apps out there that you can download, and then a woman can type in her menstrual cycles, and then you can make adjustments to your schedules then. So then there's certain periods, right, that work really well, and then there's certain periods of the month that you just keep your distance, because then it also gives you a heads up as well. So when a woman is starting to, let's say, become overreactive, she starts to become over emotional, you could just check your app and be like, oh yeah, it's that time of the month. Now you guys shouldn't be feeling shame or feeling like, oh yeah, this is a headache or too much effort. Look, if you're trying to be a part of these guys that are getting breakdowns in their relationships, then go ahead. But you need to understand there's certain periods of the month when a woman is not going to be interested in that. Does that make sense, guys? So, final point is exited. So, certain guys I've coached, spoken to them, they've told me the situation. So, 2 months, 3 months ago, woman's cut off intimacy, and then that's led to a major downfall in their relationship. Now, that relationship was breaking down several months before that. This is what these guys don't seem to understand. If it's like a temporary cut off of intimacy, it's not even a cut off, but when it's temporary break of intimacy because of that reason, previous reason of the menstruals, then that's understandable. But there's certain times when a woman's just emotionally clocked out, she's exited, her attachment for you is gone because of the simple fact of respect. Respect has been going down. It's been dropping over the several weeks, several months. That's why certain times a woman can wake up one day and she's saying, you know what, I just don't feel like I love you anymore. I don't feel like this relationship is going to work. 5 years in, 10 years in, certain times. A woman's not looking at the, let's say, 10 years that you've both built together. You've both been working together hard, this and that. Through those periods of several weeks and several months, she's been losing her attachment for you. And then one day she's just like, you know what, I've had enough. And that's what's happening with a lot of guys. A lot of guys, their relationships are breaking down. Woman's exited out. Certain times these guys, they're not even applying no contact. So sometimes I'm speaking to these guys, they're only now applying no contact after intimacy has been cut off. But it should have been applied several times before. So before the relationship and then during the relationship as well. To condition a woman, to let her know, okay, look, good behavior, more attention. Bad behavior, less attention. That's a general rule of thumb. Guys need to write that down. Take note of that. So when a woman shows good behavior, you give her more attention. When a woman shows bad behavior, give her less attention. So when she's exited out, there's no resolving that situation. There's no resolving that relationship. The woman's just, it's just a downward spiral after that. You don't want to be in that. You don't want it to get anywhere near that, because it becomes emotionally draining from both sides. It becomes a really, really toxic relationship. Because that's what the value exchange is in a relationship. Your attention for intimacy. from the woman's side. As soon as you're just giving attention and she's not giving intimacy, your attention is getting devalued. It's going down. And then before you know it, complete loss of respect, and she's exited. So just to wrap up, connection. Women who feel disconnected from a relationship, she doesn't feel like she's been heard, she doesn't feel like this guy here spends quality time with her. Now there's a difference between spending quality time and quantity time. Yeah, quantity, guys, certain beta males spend too much time with a woman, suffocate the woman, just like constantly on her, spending all day long with her. That's why certain times these guys who are, let's say, working at home, their relationships end up breaking down as well. It's because they're spending too much time with the woman. Give her time away, spend time away from her, let her miss you for the day. And then when you come back during the day, come back during the evening, then she misses you, then you can spend quality time with her. So then when a woman's saying X, Y, Z, you're just listening to her, give her a hug, kiss, whatever. But just make sure you're in tune with her. And that goes back to just developing yourselves. Develop your emotional intelligence. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Next point after that was respect. So I'll give you that example of that beta male who said to his woman, "Can you please piss in my mouth?" Yeah, she got completely icked out, turned off from that. She cut off intimacy with him. Straight. Just saw him as a dirty rapist. Disgusting. These people here, they need to have some shame. They ain't got no shame. They got all these sick perverted thoughts in their head. And then they play that all out in real life. That's why these X-rated videos, they damage your mindset. It destroys your mindset. Because they think that that's real life. You just jump into it. Treat a woman like an animal. And then they're wondering why a woman's cutting off intimacy with them. These guys, they are too focused on the wrong things. They're focused on, how do I grow my size, this and that. How do I get it to like 8 inch, 10 inch? Even if you magically done that, which is not even possible anyway. Let's say even if you did. If your personality sucks, you can't connect with a woman, she don't respect you, none of that ain't gonna mean anything. She ain't gonna care about none of that. So next point after that was menstrual. So certain periods of the month where a woman's not going to be interested in intimacy. And then there's certain periods where she's going to be interested. So you can make adjustments to that. And I mentioned earlier on about, for example, you could download the app. She types in her details, menstrual details or whatever. And then you can keep track of that. And then the final point is exited. This right here is when a woman has officially, emotionally clocked out. She don't want nothing to do with you. She's just emasculating you day by day. Full on emasculation mode. So that's what happens with these women. They just start becoming nightmares to deal with. How she started off as like let's say, an angel type girl. And she becomes a flipping demon. Now, obviously, there's no angel girls out there, but I'm just saying as an example. A girl who's like an angel, and then she becomes like a flipping demon. Becomes a complete nightmare to deal with. So you don't want to go anywhere near that, because that relationship is completely just broken down. So I hope that makes sense, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.